Welcome to A Cup of Happy. I'm your host, life coach, mom, and friend, Nicole James. I'm so glad you've joined me to talk about life and the journey from our past to our future as we navigate the present in order to create our very best life. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's chat over a cup of happy. Hi friends, and welcome back to A Cup of Happy. My name is Nicole James. Today I am sitting down with Corinne McMurtery. Her story is not like any of the other stories in this series. Corinne's story is one that can be described as a story full of grace. There's no other way to say it. I do not want to give away one little ounce of her story before you hear it from her mouth. But just know, if at the end of this story, at the end of this conversation, if you feel like her words have touched you, I would love for you to reach out to her and to let her know. You can find her information in the show notes. Without any further ado, here is Corinne and her story of grace. Corinne, hey, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you have agreed to talk with me today and share your story. So this is just a reminder for anybody watching that this is a series on traumatic events that have happened in people's lives and the stories of hope and the resources to move beyond that trauma and then create a life that you love beyond that. And your story is a little bit different than some of the other people that have been on here, but I really truly believe that it's a story that a lot of people need to hear. So with that, I'm going to kind of let you just kind of take the floor and start from the beginning.
Okay. So first of all, I wanted to say that it's like, for me, it was really an interesting process, even like getting here today, because I look, it's like I've thought of my story. I think of it every single day. And, I feel a lot of the times, like when we think of trauma, we think of it as, I told you this, like we think of it as something that happened like to you, or a situation that affected you, like it happened to you. And I didn't really think of my situation as something to share in this light, because I feel like it was something that I caused. It was something that I did. Like it was my fault that the trauma happened, and so I didn't really know if it counts as trauma, I guess, because it was like my fault. But just after we had some conversations, it kind of just put a different light on it. Like it was a traumatic experience, and it's affected my entire life. So I think I just wanted to kind of point that out. Like there's trauma on lots of different sides, and it just looks a little bit different, I think. So
Absolutely.
I don't know what the definition of trauma is, but I feel like I've experienced it. So my situation happened, oh my goodness, like almost 14 years ago, 2011. And that kind of just set up the situation. That year was probably the worst year of my life. I started the year with separation from my husband at the time. He was cheating on me, and there was no remorse, no, once I found out, trying to backtrack or hide it. It was just yep, that's what's been happening, bye, kind of thing. So kind of going from, nobody gets married to get divorced, going
Right.
from that position of wanting to make it work into apartment by myself. I kind of started the beginning of the year just in this place of very much being alone, even though I have family here that are fabulous. They're one of my biggest support systems, but just feeling alone.
Yeah.
Like from a partner aspect.
Right.
So I did what I feel like a lot of people do in those situations. I just threw myself into work. I worked pretty much 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day.
Wow.
Like all the time. I had 2 full-time jobs, pretty much. And I just worked all the time because I didn't want to think about it. I didn't have healthy ways to process my emotions, or I just didn't want to deal with it. And I did that for several months until around the summer. It just kind of like hit me that I had no life, literally, outside of work and outside of this like hate. I don't know if hate's the right word, but just like all these negative emotions that I had, like going through that divorce process, which is exhausting. And those feelings of loss, and I just worked all the time. And I finally just started having those like, well, what would it look like to go out with my friends? What would it look like to maybe meet somebody new? Like, let's look at that. So it was in July, end of July that year. I had worked from 6 a.m. Had my first job. I went home, changed clothes, went to my second job, and they were going to let me out early that night. And I had some friends that were like, let's go out. Like, let's go out after work. Let's go have a couple drinks. One of my friends was like, I have a guy that I'd like you to meet. Like, he's really nice. And so it was like one of those moments of just, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get out. Let's not just sit on my couch and drink a beer when I get home and go to bed by myself, So,
which feels like a healthy thing. Like you would think, like, okay, I'm making some progress. I'm going to go out and socialize, and this is like a good thing. Like,
So I had gone out a couple times, before, or like on days that I didn't work and stuff. So this time I went out, and it was fun until a point. Like I remember meeting this new guy. I had some, drinks with my friends, and then I really don't remember the end of my evening. So, what had happened is I drank too much. And I've always been a person that, like, I get a DD, I take a cab, or Uber now, or I just stay home if I'm going to drink. Like, I've never been somebody to just, like, drink a whole bunch and get in my car.
Right.
But I don't remember the end of my evening. I don't remember paying my tab. I don't remember saying goodbye to my friends. I don't remember getting in my truck. I don't remember driving away. I don't remember any of it. So, interesting thing is I blacked out, obviously. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like when you black out, like that's your body, like your brain's reaction to like trying to keep you alive, because there's like so much alcohol in your system that it shuts down like all other functions that are like not necessary. So your memory making functions, not necessary. That's why you don't remember anything. Just it does the things like breathe, move, walk, like those things. So I remember being there at the bar, and then the next thing I remember, I was on the side of the interstate, like on the exit ramp going to my apartment. Like I'd pulled off the exit, apparently, and I was like, maybe a mile from my apartment, maybe. And I remember being on the side of the exit ramp, and just like that's the next memory I have, and like my truck wouldn't start, like it wouldn't move, it wouldn't go. So naturally at 3:00 in the morning, you call your parents, which they hate phone calls in the middle of the night now. So I told my dad, at the time I didn't know where I was, and just that my truck wouldn't start. So he was like trying to figure it out. And then I was like, well, I have to go. The police are here. Because I saw the cops show up behind me. The only thing I knew at that moment was that I was getting a DUI. Like, I knew, like, I've had way too much to drink. Like, I've never had a DUI before, but, like, I know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not dumb. Like, I know this is going to happen. So they got me out of the car. They did a sobriety test, put me in the cop car, took me away. And so just, I don't remember much about the drive. I was kind of like in and out. And then the next place we went was the sheriff's office downtown in Knoxville. Again, I've never had a DUI, so I don't know what this process looks like. That's not normal. So they took me to the sheriff's office. They put me in like a little room, and the sheriff or detective or whoever he was just started asking me like question after question after, like, where were you going, who were you with, how much did you have to drink, like, I mean, just over and over and over and over again. And I just remember like sitting at this little table and like trying to answer his questions the best I could, like the best I could remember things. And finally, like, he leaves the room and then he comes back and he just like, okay, well, I'm gonna tell you what happened. And so when I was driving home, I had gotten on the interstate, and when I was getting off the interstate, there was some gentleman walking down the exit ramp because they had run out of gas. And I hit one of them with my car. And then one of them had to go to the hospital. The gentleman that I hit, he died instantly, and then one of the other guys had to go to the hospital with injuries. And I just remember, like, in that moment, just like it's like you're like trying to like scrape your brain, you know, like just go through every single moment, every single memory to like understand it, if that makes sense. Like, I couldn't find that. I still can't. 14 years later, like, I still can't find, I don't know if I want to, but like find that memory to like, this is what happened, you know, like, I just have somebody telling me that that's what happened. And I just, like, it's just, like, I couldn't find it. So after that, I just, like, I was in that room. They moved me to a different room, and I just remember hiding under a desk, like, just hiding because I just couldn't, like, process what happened. And I just was like, it's not me, you know, like, that's not me. That's not who I am. I would never want to hurt another person ever. And they called my parents to come pick me up because they were afraid that I was suicidal because of how, I guess, I was acting. I still only, like, again, I only remember like kind of bits and pieces of it. And so I went home with them. My dad picked me up. I went home with them, and then that just started a year. I told you, like, the official, like, court date for the incident wasn't until like the next June. And it just started this year of purgatory, pretty much, like this waiting game. And just like trying to figure out like who that person was, like who I was in that moment, and like why I chose to do that. Like, why did I choose to get in my car? Why did I choose? Because I would never, as like a sound individual, make that choice. Yeah. So it just, I don't know. The next year was just a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
So, in that moment when you were riding home with your parents, what kind of feelings were you feeling at that point? And if you don't mind sharing, like what like, how did your parents respond? How was their take on it? Whether they were supportive of you, or whether, like, what was that like? Because that can be a very, I mean, as shocked as you are in what you did, I'm sure they were equally as like, wow, this isn't her. This isn't her.
My dad had gotten a phone call from me when I was on the side of the road, and he kind of figured out where I was, and I actually.
So this was 2011. So this was before people were tracked on their phones all the time, and their location. Okay,
right.
Yeah.
So he was trying to figure out where I was, and I actually didn't hear my dad's side of the story until like maybe 2 years later. I never heard this, but he figured out where I was and started just going. Like he just got in his car and drove, because I mentioned earlier, my family they're awesome. You know, like even in like the moments where I thought I was alone, like I've always had them. And my dad got in the car and he left the house at 3-something in the morning, left my mom by herself, who was losing it, you know.
Yeah.
She didn't know what was going on. And he found where the incident had happened, and so he pretty much comes rolling down the interstate to just blue lights, red lights, cops everywhere. Parks his car, gets out gets out and just starts like running, because the last he heard from me was, cops here, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what happened. He didn't, like, he was completely just like looking for me. And he sees, a whole situation, and doesn't know if it's me, doesn't know like what's going on. And it wasn't until like he, a cop stopped him and was like, "You can't be here," and he said that he was looking for me, and they kind of put it all together. And they just told him to go home. They kind of told him what happened, said, "You need to go home until you hear from her." So he had to go back and tell my mom kind of what happened. And I think for them, like, I mean, even now, like, I hate waking my mom up early. I hate, like, because I just know that she's on edge still from things. And just kind of realizing that, like, the choices that you make, this was the biggest thing for me in that, like, year afterwards. The choices that we make, they don't just affect you, they affect so many. It's like a ripple effect. It just like it goes out. And so it affected my parents, it affected my family, it affected obviously the gentleman and his daughter and their family, and like, it affects everybody. And it's like one choice.
Yeah.
One choice. So they kind of went into pretty much survival mode when they brought me home. They tried to get me to sleep, and then as best they could, and then just calling everybody, like who do we need to talk to, who can we get help from, what's the next step, like what do we need to do, as they released me into their care. So, you know, it was just this very much like what happens next kind of situation. It was all over the news, which my mom just couldn't stop watching, you know. And
now with them, with you being released into their care, did you then go to live with them throughout that year?
Yes.
Or were you still in your apartment? Or?
I mean, I still had my apartment, but we got the lease broke, and I had to move in with them, and it went in. We found a lawyer who was absolutely amazing, because, you know, it was just, you find the right people that you need, I think, in various situations, and she was just like exactly the right person that we needed, because she knew what needed to happen, but also she cared about like my mental health and my stability and like where I was at. So she immediately got me into counseling. Like, I think I was in counseling probably 3 days after the incident happened.
Yeah.
And I went to counseling every single day for a while.
Yeah.
And then it was every other day, every week, it just kind of gradually, you know, became less as I needed it. But that was one of the biggest things for me that helped, is just having my family right there, like fighting for me and trying to figure it out, you know, and trying to help me like navigate all of the emotions, but also like just having somebody completely unbiased, not knowing what the situation was, to be able to just go talk to and just pretty much be like, that sucks, you know, like, this is tough, this is, you know, let's talk about this, she helped me kind of unpack a lot of things that I was thinking, and I didn't feel that I couldn't say something, you know, I didn't feel like what I was saying was too much for her, which was helpful, because, you know, just there's things I was thinking and things I was feeling that I didn't feel I could say to my parents, because they were just so involved in it.
Right. I mean, they had their own version of a traumatic experience, and in those situations, it is best to lean on somebody else who, you know, you're not adding to each other's trauma by talking about it within each other, but relying on outside sources. Yeah.
So her help was extremely beneficial, and she was a counselor versus a, I don't know, therapist or psychiatrist. I don't know the exact words. But so she wasn't prescribing me anything. She wasn't like trying to like numb anything. Not that anything is wrong with prescription drugs. I just like, it wasn't what I needed at the moment. So she was really just there to help me kind of like navigate like a lot of the things that I was feeling.
Did you stay working with her up through the trial?
Yes.
Yes.
So I stayed with her probably through the trial, and then I was incarcerated for a little while, and I saw her after I got out also. So it was just nice to, like I said, just have a safe place to just be able to talk about anything about it, which helped me I had a lot of kind of like my spiritual journey happened in that time frame also, because it went from, you know, I was in a place like a very like me, myself, and I space going into that evening. Like I was focused on my life and what was happening directly to me, and what did I want. And after that, it was, okay, well, why me? You know, like, or like a why not me? Like, why why am I still here
Mm.
and somebody else is not? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So I had like a lot to unpack there, and just realizing like I'm here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for a purpose, and I just got to figure it out. So I was a lot.
Yeah.
That whole next year. And for me, that's kind of, I started on, because of those questions, I started on this like spiritual journey, I guess. I'd gone to church the whole time I was up through high school with my parents, and then when I moved away, I stopped going. And so I just, in that year, just started seeking out, like, you know, what is my purpose? What is, who is God? What is, you know, like trying to figure that out. So maybe I could find some answers.
Yeah.
And like my kind of like defining moment, I would say, like in the process, was the day we went to court.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the courtroom. We were going through the case with the judge. I had done everything at that point.
Yeah.
To show my character, let them know who I am, that this isn't, I would never let this happen again. I'll do everything in my power to, like, I can't take it back. But, you know, like,
Right.
if I could share my story and one person could not do that, you know, not make that choice, then I think it's worth it. So, like, going into that day, we didn't know what to expect. It was, minimum sentence was 10 days in jail. Maximum sentence was 10 years. So we had...
According to, like, state law or something like that.
According to what had been worked out over the year,
Okay.
going in to see the judge, like back and forth with other attorneys, and that's kind of the time frame that they had.
That's a very big difference.
Very big difference.
Yeah.
And my lawyer going into that day, like, literally had no idea. She was like, she goes, it really depends on how the judge is feeling today, honestly. You know, like, we don't know.
Yeah.
And so I had my family there. I had some friends there. But it's like, you walk in the courtroom and you know exactly who their family is. And, you know, when they, like, look at you, like, you know, like, how would you look at somebody that did that to your son or your nephew, or, you know, so you know who they are. And we're in court, and they have, they give an opportunity for members of the family to say what they want to say. And one lady decided to get up and talk, and it was the gentleman who died. It was his aunt. And her words have, like, stuck with me for, like, ever. Because she said, if she's going to do what she says she's going to do, then I feel we should give her the opportunity to do it. And it was like, in that moment, it's like, that was grace. You know, like, that was my first, I feel like my first just experience with true and complete grace. And, like, I will never forget that, ever. And so, and I really feel like she saved me in that moment. And she gave me a chance to have a life and to experience that grace. And then be able to, like, give grace to others. So it was like that moment. And from there, it's like, I feel like I knew what I could feel what grace felt like. And I was able at that point to, like, take a step forward, like a bigger step forward, and just be like, okay, like, what was that? You know, like,
Yeah.
I want I've never experienced that before. So like, what was that? And now what do I do with it? So I can just, it's like you have those like core memories almost,
Yes.
so there's a lot of things I don't remember from the process, but that just sticks out to me. So kind of going through, I ended up doing 100 days in jail and then the rest of the 10 years on probation. And like in those like moments in incarceration, like that's where I like really dove into like, where is this grace coming from? And like, what does that truly look like, and why do I deserve that? And so they have a Bible study once a week in there, and I started just going to that and just listening and just trying to like figure it out. And then I just kept, after we got out, I started going to church. This guy that I worked with kept asking me to go. I finally decided to go, and the first day I went back to church, it was a sermon on Moses and how Moses was a sinner and he killed the Egyptian guard, and Jesus still had a place in his heart for him, and God still had a plan for him, and I broke. So like that's just been kind of, it's still obviously something that I think I'm still healing from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But like knowing that like I am forgiven for it, and being able to forgive myself, and then living every day to just like show that kind of grace to anybody, to everybody, because everybody deserves that kind of grace. So that's been kind of my like focus for the past 14 years, is just how do I live my life with purpose and to give grace to everybody. So yeah,
that's such a beautiful way to live, honestly. I think it's a perfect addition to this series, because in everybody experiencing their traumas, we are so often like focusing on we were the victim and rising from that, and that grace element is often forgotten. And I mean, just sitting here listening to you, I'm like, I'm losing it myself. But your story is extremely powerful. And grace is, I mean, we all need grace.
Yeah.
Like I told you at the beginning, I just feel like, there's definitely a reason for your story. And gosh, I mean, the amount of times that we've all like done things that we regret.
Yeah.
And they're just not out there on display for everybody. You know, we hold them secretly. And the times that people do little things to us that aren't even detrimental to any aspect of our life, they just hurt our feelings, and we want to hold this big grudge.
Right. And that,
we can...
that's also something I think that has like drastically changed in me from then to now, is I used to be somebody that would just like hold on to something and like, still be mad at what you said about me, 5 years later. But it now comes down to this point, like, why? Like, why am I going to hold that negativity in me when I can release it and let it go, and release you and let you go? And, like, is that serving me? Like, does that matter in the grand scheme of eternity?
Right.
Like, what really matters? And I'm thankful. I'm so thankful that I get to be here. Here with you. Here every day with my kids. Wake up to them. Have a husband. Have a life. Like, I'm so thankful for that, because I couldn't have. There was another path that could have happened. And I'm thankful every day for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the one thing that kind of keeps me on the path of healing, because I mean, healing also is not like a linear
Exactly. Yeah.
path. It's like up and down, up and down. And some days are better than others, but it's just that, like, the gratitude of being thankful for everything that we have, and realizing that some things are, it doesn't matter. You know, like, there's more important things that matter.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So let's talk about, too, you mentioned that the words of his aunt were, if she's going to do what she says, then we need to give her the opportunity. Yeah. You did that for a long time.
Yeah.
You shared your story regularly, helping people. So tell me a little bit about that. Yeah. Where was that, and what was that like?
Part of any type of, like, DUI conviction, big or small, the state of Tennessee requires that you take a 12-hour alcohol and drug prevention class.
Okay.
You have to do that. So my lawyer, going through that first year process, she already knew. She's like, you're already going to get sentenced to do this when we go to court, so just go do it. Just go do it. And so I went online, I found a class, and I took it, and it's a 12-hour day.
So all 12 hours in one day.
The gentleman that did that class, he did them all in one day. There's some that, like, break them up, but I was like, let's just do it. And at the end of the class, they, like, towards the end of the day, they show videos of accidents and, you know, interviews with individuals involved and things like that. And it was difficult to watch, just because it's like, I feel like I've experienced that, whereas, like, some other people in the class, they got a DUI and they got pulled over and, you know, it was done. But it just I don't feel like it was as personal for everybody else as it was for me. And so I talked to the gentleman, his name is Randy. I talked to him at the end of the class, and I was like, listen, can I come? And this is what I'm currently going through, so I don't know if you need to wait, but I was like, can I come and share my story, you know, every now and then, instead of you playing the videos, and allow them to have a more, like, real experience? And he was like, yeah, let's do that. And so that was a kind of like a once a month thing, and then an every other week thing, and then an every week thing. Wow. And then I started teaching the class. So it's just, it progressed, and I was there, and I'm like, that was my purpose at that time, was I want to share this because it was one choice. You know, it was completely out of character for me. It's not something that I would ever do. Like, I didn't normally drink and drive. So it's like, just kind of sharing that, like, we all make mistakes. And it does come down to one choice. You know, one choice. Even if you're the friend in the situation, like, realizing, hey, my friend's had too much to drink. I'm taking her keys. You know, like, there's a way that situation could have been. That could have not happened. Right. And so I was sharing that there. That's actually where I heard my dad's side of the story the very first time. Okay. Because he came with me one night, I guess after I've been doing it for about a year, he came with me and to share his side of the story. And we both looked at each other right before it happened, and I went, I've never heard this. You know, like 2 years later, I've literally never heard you share this, and we're getting ready to do it in front of a group of people. Okay, you know. Yeah. But I'm glad he did, and he started coming and sharing his side of the story a couple times a month. So I think it was very healing for him, too, to really just be able to get it out and talk about it. So that was helpful for a while. Yeah. So. And then you pulled back from that
for a little
just
bit.
because I know it was helpful, but I was feeling like drawn to share light and in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also getting to the point where it was like very heavy,
Yes.
like over and over and over again, which I was very conflicted about. I'm like, well, this is my burden. Why am I trying to get away from it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I should do this, but also kind of going in a different perspective of I can show God's grace and I can share my story in a different way that's not making me feel, I guess, depressed or just living in that moment.
Yeah.
I felt
Yes.
like it was starting to just define who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And like it had a very defining moment on my life, but
Right.
like that's not the only thing about me, and that's not all that I am. So
Yeah.
I pulled back from that to kind of find different ways to share about it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's very courageous.
Thanks.
Very courageous. So let's talk about your life now,
Okay.
like what it looks like. So obviously, this is still a burden that you
Yeah.
carry, and I do hope that with every passing year that it gets lighter, because I feel like that's God's intention. Like we're
Right.
supposed to give our burdens to Him, and He carries them for us. But what does it look like for you, like now? Like you have a beautiful family.
Yeah.
And
I met my husband in that year.
Oh,
My
wow.
current husband, I met him in that year that I was going through all of that.
Wow.
And for, oh my goodness, 6-7 months, he had no idea.
Mm.
So I didn't tell him. You just meet this person. You
Yeah.
don't know if they're going to stick around.
Yeah.
I wasn't about to be like, here's all of this that I'm dealing with. You want to go on a date?
Right.
But just over and over and over again, he showed me his love and his character, and he showed up, and I finally told him, and he just hugged me, and he was like, we got this, like I think I told him maybe like a month before I went to court. So, it was like, well, this is what's happening, and you might want to know now because I don't know what's happening in a month. So, and he like God put him in my life for a very specific reason. Like he put him in my life in that time to show me love, I think, because I needed it, and to show me what a supportive partner looks like, which I didn't have before. And he was amazing every step of the way. Even when I was like in my incarceration stage, I called him like every single day. He'd pick up the phone every single time and listen to all my crazy stories. And he was there. He picked me up. He brought me carrot cake when he picked me up. Like it was just one thing after the other, showing me what it looks like to be loved by someone who also loves God.
Yeah.
So that was huge. And we got married in 2016. Almost forgot. We now have 2 boys that are just crazy and awesome, and teaching me to have grace and patience in new ways.
Yes.
But I'm just thankful. I'm thankful for this opportunity to like have that.
Yeah.
And be able to like love them in I think a different way than I would have as a parent before this. I don't know. I don't know. But it's definitely made me a different person in a better way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Do you see yourself telling your story in other ways now, or do you feel like maybe that stage is kind of past and it may just be conversational when you meet somebody? Do you have like any kind of thoughts on that?
I don't, honestly. No? Like
Just
coming to you with it was just this like nudge, and I'm
trying to lean more into that as far as like, okay, I'm having this feeling. I feel like I'm being called to tell you, so I'm going to just go with it. And so I want it to be for who needs to hear it.
Yeah.
Instead of just like trying to broadcast it.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think it has been more like just smaller, intimate settings that it's happened in recently. So, and I'm thankful for those moments.
Yeah.
Because they've been well received.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So, in part of creating your life, you have, you're a co-owner of a business, so that supports women.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you guys also do is support other businesses or other charities.
Yes.
And I remember one of the ones was
Focus Ministries.
Yes. Tell me a little bit about that, because
yeah. So that's me. That's my heart. Focus Ministries. They help women who've been in incarceration. They help them. They have a behind the bars program where they actually minister to them while they're in jail and meet with them and have conversations with them there. And then they have a beyond the bars program, which is they actually have a home in the Knoxville area where women can go into to transition kind of back into regular life. Because a lot of these women have been in jail for years, years and years. So it's a shock. Like, it's a total culture shock for a lot of them to like be in this situation and then to come back out and not know what to, you're literally just like, okay, bye. Like, they just let you out. Yeah. There's not a like, here's a list of your next steps, or here's who you should call. They literally just give you your stuff and send you out. Yeah. So I love Focus's like ministry on that. They're wanting to like meet those ladies there and be like, let's help you. Let's help you figure out your next step. Let's help you get a job. Let's help you like just readjust to like creating your own schedule and what you want. And so I just have a heart for that because I know it's important. Yeah. I met so many women while I was in jail that just, I've been there for a year or two, and like, they get in this mind that like that's just their life now. Like they're so accustomed to that routine to like then have to completely do something new. A lot of the times they go back to old habits or old people, old friends, old places that are not serving them anymore. Right. So
just because it's comfortable, because what's known as
comfortable.
That's
the only thing they knew. Right. So trying to start again something new is scary and challenging. So I just have a heart for what Focus is doing. Yeah.
And GalFunction has supported that.
Yes, they have.
GalFunction is the name of the business that you and
I'm very big on community.
Yes.
And so that's something that I've experienced and I know is just incredibly important in our lives. Like, we can't be an island. There's no way I would have gotten through my situation and my experience without a community, without people surrounding me. And I know now, like, as a business owner, it can be the same thing. So that's what my focus is within our company, is just creating that community. How do we create this place where women feel loved and seen and welcomed, and like, that's my passion there. Yeah. So
I love it. And it comes through. It comes through.
Hope so.
Yes. And yeah, I love going to the events. I love coming and being a part. And I'm grateful that you guys have created a space for me as well. And so, okay, so I want to end this kind of the way that I've ended all of them.
Okay.
So in coming through the trauma that I went through, life coaching was like my lifeline. And my faith journey kind of happened alongside of that. But the life coaching was, it taught me the tools to get through.
Yeah.
And so that's what set me on my journey to become a certified life coach.
Right.
And part of what I really instill in my clients is their responsibility to cultivate a mindset that serves them.
Yes.
Because it is, I mean, it's our responsibility. And
Yeah.
it's not difficult, but it's difficult to get started and to
Yeah.
maintain. But so one of the things that I ask them to do every single day is to list 3 things that they're grateful for that have happened within 24 hours.
Okay.
So not the overarching, my family, my friends, like
Okay.
all the big things that are amazing to be grateful for,
Yeah.
but that can kind of feel watered down at times because it's just what it is.
Yeah.
But like, so the little things, like it could be a coffee, it could be like your favorite blanket, anything at all within the last 24 hours.
Okay.
Can you list 3?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's hear it.
I'll say this is one of the things that has helped me over the past 10 years is just constantly like gratitude journal.
Yes.
I mentioned this when I got here, a full night's sleep
Yes.
of just like literally almost 9 hours of just like rest. I love my kids, but like sometimes I needed the rest, you
Yes.
know? And so I was super thankful for that. I'm thankful for my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law, who are just fun, and my kids love them, and that's where they went last night. And I just know, like, I'm thankful for that, like, complete trust in them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what they're doing. Whatever. You know, like, I know they're having a great time, and I know they're in good hands, and they're just amazing people. And then I was thankful for a quiet house this morning. Like, to really just... Sometimes you just need that quiet to, like, really calm things. So, quiet house, coffee. It was wonderful.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Corinne, thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
being
having me.
so vulnerable and so courageous at the same time,
Thanks.
and for teaching us a little bit more about grace, because we definitely all need to hear that. And if you want to find anything out about Corinne, her businesses, the charity that she supports, we'll put it all in the show notes. So thank you so much.